Alexis Mac Allister is the first signing of Liverpool's summer, obviously subject to the medical and holding the shirt, and to all intents and purposes, he is a Liverpool player apart from having stepped on the pitch, obviously. He's not actually pulled on a Liverpool shirt yet, but the excitement is still there, and it is a show of intention for where Liverpool are going to take this summer. I'd be fascinated to know what you guys think, so let me know down in the comments below. Is this an indication of signings to come? How does he fit into what you think is Liverpool's transfer policy this summer? And what does it indicate moving forward in terms of shape, in terms of everything else, and where Liverpool are going to go? This is a breakdown of Alexis Mac Allister and why, how, and what he brings to Liverpool. It's going to be interesting to see where Liverpool go from here, because potentially he is, and I mean is, Liverpool's biggest signing of the summer. For a long time, Liverpool have needed, and I mean needed, more reliable bodies in midfield that are able to carry the ball forward, be adaptable in terms of shape, and also retain possession. And they've had some really fantastic players in possession. I mean, Thiago is a fantastic player in possession. Fabinho, on his day in possession, is fantastic. Jordan Henderson is someone who recycles possession very quickly and operates in that triangle on the opposite side you'd imagine Mac Allister might operate on. And at the same point, Liverpool, when they've had that left side of the midfield sorted out, or even the left side of a 10 or whatever, have always looked like a much more solid option. So bringing in Mac Allister is a show of intention as to where this side is going, and you could kind of see towards the end of the season the shapes that Liverpool were looking to operate in, the kind of players they wanted in there. And you know what? There were even kind of, I want to say, breadcrumbs as to where Liverpool were going with this midfield. You saw they bought Harvey Elliott back in. They brought him into a more prominent role within midfield for Liverpool. They brought Fabio Carvalho in, someone who obviously could play the 10 role, but also carry from deep for Liverpool and could be a little bit scrappier, but he's still relatively raw. And then obviously we're looking at Kone, and we're also looking at a signing of Thuram as well. Two super raw talents from, mainly because they're quite young in the first place, but also because they come across as audacious, incredibly intelligent, and also exciting for the teams they currently play for. And Mac Allister, you'd argue, is a more, I don't want to say nailed on, because you never want to put too much pressure on a player, but he's a player that you'd imagine profiles quite well for Liverpool right now. His profile obviously takes him into a 5-year contract, so until June 2028, allegedly, at least that's what has been reported right now on Twitter. And alongside that, it also is, I mean, it's a big contract for him. It's big, not upgrade, but in terms of payment, it's probably quite a big step up for him. And it's also a profile signing, and also obviously someone that Liverpool have been looking to get for quite a while now. So overall, intentions, projections, all these kind of things are good for Liverpool. It also shows the adaptability of where Liverpool are possibly going here. He's someone who can retain possession in midfield, like I said. He's someone who's able to recycle it. He's someone who's able to bring the ball forward. And I also think the key here with Liverpool has been this season, there have been multiple times where you thought they need someone who can do the things that Mac Allister can do, who can A, press high up the field like he did against Douglas Luiz, like he did against so many other sides, and also lead a press, someone who can come from a little bit deeper and press that, not only the defensive midfielder, but also the centre-backs at the back, and at the same time also be a solid and deep, possibly deep-lying playmaker, or someone who can sit a little bit deeper and distribute between the lines, but also be playing that killer ball through as well. Arguably, Liverpool are losing a couple of players you would have thought would have done that. So Naby Keita would have been one of those players, even if he profiled a little bit more on the right. You would say Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was someone else who would basically come in and distribute, but also be good with a shot from distance. Mac Allister. And then at the same time, that seems like a combination of the two of them. It also seems like there is an element of how do we replace Thiago on the left, someone who probably won't get offered a new contract at Liverpool, could be leaving on a free at some point, but also is a great piece of I want to say experience within the squad, but also metronomic slash pace and just overall shape in the side. He gives that. He gives Liverpool shape. He gives Liverpool purpose. Mac Allister can be one of those guys. And at the same time, at the age of 24, there is so much experience under his belt already. He's played at a World Cup and he's won it. It was very valued at Brighton. You could see the love for him. I was at the game where they clapped him out. I think that was actually against Liverpool, so good for him. But it was a really big moment for him. He was also someone who's played alongside Messi. He's played alongside some of the really valuable global players, and that is huge. Having someone who's got international profile at such a young age and international experience at such a young age, That's big. He's a big personality who not big in terms of like he's out there, but big in terms of he's able to handle the pressure. He's able to handle these kind of moments. And Liverpool profile players to try to look for those kind of, I want to say factors, but also just inputs in the first place. It's an exciting guy who comes in with some experience, which Liverpool are arguably losing in their midfield more regularly next year. James Milner, obviously on the way out, possibly going the opposite way, possibly kind of helped lubricate the deal a little bit. You also saw ex-Liverpool player Adam Lallana profiling Mac Allister as almost a Modric type. So he's not the fastest, he's not the most powerful, but he is someone who's able to ride those tackles. The ball is faster than he is, and he's away straight away. That was an interview done back in January, which makes me think Liverpool have been chasing this guy for a little while, which makes me think that there is, I mean, obviously they've been doing it, they don't just sort of do their research at the end of the season, but you get what I mean? There's something that's been in the pipeline here for a while with Liverpool. And so, you know, let's enjoy it while we can, I guess. Let's enjoy that Liverpool are, along with, you know, taking in Roger, I want to say Schmatke, Jorg Schmacked. A couple of days in the job, obviously with a bit of preparation and putting down some groundwork clearly beforehand as kind of a freelancer-esque role for Liverpool, has already come in and supercharged what it is that Liverpool are doing, probably on the back of what Julian was doing and, you know, possibly even building on the back of previous generations before that. Now, a real question for me here is, what is it that Liverpool are actually cooking here? Because it's been about a week since Jorg has come in. Liverpool have then gone on to sign, or at least tried to sign, a couple of players within the 40 to 55, maybe even 60 million pound price tag. Now, it's not a throwback to the old days, but what Liverpool used to do was go in at a relatively reasonably priced end of the market and try to get signings for good prices. Not like some sort of very high-end spend, which is kind of what Liverpool were claiming to do, where it was like they're either going to spend a lot of money on someone or, you know, virtually basically go from the academy or very young players. This is kind of a middle ground. Maybe there's a bit of like smoke screening there. Maybe Liverpool have changed their transfer policy. Maybe there's also an element of this guy was available and we got him for cheaper than we thought we could get him for. When we walked in the room, that's all they asked for. Maybe the actual release clause was lower than Liverpool were anticipating, which is obviously great for Liverpool. But also then you don't want to do the old, who won the transfer window here? Who won this signing? But it's a good signing for Liverpool, and you got to admit, like when other people like Enzo Fernandez or even just big time midfielders are going for 80 to 100 million, how did Liverpool end up with that? Do you know what I mean? So I'm interested to know what you guys think and how Liverpool pulled this off. I get it, like what is Jorg cooking here is a big question for Liverpool this summer, but how have they done this? Brighton had a great player, and Caicedo will probably be even more in the transfer market. Maybe Mac Allister is seen as someone who's not quite a stronger prospect, but he's young, he's audacious, he's coachable, he's adaptable. There's so many different aspects as to why you would want a player like Mac Allister. All the signings that Liverpool are going for profile in a very similar way to the Liverpool profile players. So we're looking at young, reliable, fairly kind of, I don't want to say like, you know, not the party type or not the kind of guy who, you know, goes out and gets absolutely drunk every weekend or feels unreliable, but he's the kind of person you can see a Jurgen Klopp midfield can rely on, and also personality-wise is welcome in the dressing room. What is interesting about it, and I will put it this way, is Liverpool have had a relatively clear run to him. Now, a relatively clear run obviously doesn't mean that other people weren't showing interest, but they didn't get into a battle to try and sign him. It didn't seem as if behind the scenes there was too much of a fuss around pricing or those kind of things. It seems like a fairly open and shut case. 45 to 55 mil is a pretty reasonable price for an Argentinian midfielder who clearly already has great profile in the Premier League, runs things in that capacity, and has also run things for another team in the Premier League, which, by the way, was a very progressive side, again showing how adaptable he is. I'm just saying there is a series of very good indicators here, and I'm kind of surprised that an Arsenal, a Manchester United, possibly even a Man City, who are looking at a big turnover in their midfield, Gundogan going, they've possibly been looking at the likes of Kovacic in that midfield. You know, they didn't get Jorginho a couple of seasons ago. I'm not saying he's a similar profile, but you get what I'm saying. But the question does still kind of stand there, though. Why were Liverpool allowed such a free run at Alexis Mac Allister? Arsenal might profile for a player like this. City might profile. Manchester United. It was interesting. I think it's got something to do with that initial relationship, the pitch and everything else. But at the same time, there must be something else in there that other teams maybe aren't looking for. Maybe Liverpool have found their player, and maybe other teams have got their player, and maybe those two fit different profiles. But I'd be interested to know what your theory is as to why Liverpool were allowed basically allowed a relatively free run onto this guy? Is it because they don't have anyone who profiles like that, or Liverpool do have people who profile like that, but maybe they're not as prominent as Alexis Mac Allister, or maybe it was just that he was promised that kind of role at Liverpool that, I mean, frankly, maybe he wants. Now, there might be reasons why, which maybe will become evident soon, but at the same time, I think if a player and a club have that combination, which it seems Liverpool have had, they make very compelling pitches, they quantify why they want you. A call from Jurgen Klopp probably helps quite a lot. And early on, it seems as if they don't get good feedback or they don't feel like the player is interested, they're going to move on pretty quickly. That's possibly why they got Jörg Schmadtke. It's possibly why they got him, because he seems fairly cut and dry. He seems like the kind of person who basically gets business done, and when he doesn't get business done with someone, moves on fairly quickly. Liverpool needs someone who's going to be more business than they are heart, because this Liverpool team has so much heart, they have so much affection for these players. There possibly needs to be someone who's going to be coming in, cutting and moving on, profile the player. If it doesn't fit, move on. Does he fit the price? No, move on. Does he fit the profile? No, move on. Those are all going to be great pluses for Liverpool this summer, because a squad that needs turnover is, I mean, it's basically a lame duck in the Premier League, because a lot of people know they're going to be moving on. A lot of people know, things aren't necessarily as fast as they could be velocity-wise. Liverpool still doing really well, still moving forward, but not challenging. Seems like almost a lack of progress. Staying still is not good enough in the Premier League anymore. And Liverpool moving forward, maybe making 4, possibly 5 signings this summer, maybe moving on 4 or 5 players this summer. The squad was already a fairly decent size. It's not that they need to add to it, it's that they need to literally turn it over and get other people in. So I think it's fantastic. I think he profiles really well in terms of what Pep Lijnders probably wants, probably really profiles well in terms of what Klopp wants for almost exactly that reason, but then other reasons on top of that. For instance, the fact that he could be a leader within the dressing room. He has been someone who's been around fairly high-profile players and therefore can probably deal with that as well. And the tactical flexibility, the tactical adaptability that I will be talking about later this week in another video is clearly there as well. So all of those things add up to make this a fairly satisfying first signing of the summer for Liverpool. It's also good because if Liverpool can get a couple of these down, it's only early June now, sort of first moving into the second week in June when they'll be signing him. Then they can move on to other signings, they can move on to other projects. Not that they can't do things concurrently, but it's always good to kind of knock one down, move on to the next. And that does lead me on to another one. I think it was Thuram who liked a profile picture of this kind of thing happening. So it's like a big Mac Allister in a Liverpool shirt moving on. That's great, right? If Liverpool are lining people up, you know that there are other players coming. Thuram is incredibly exciting. Kone, incredibly exciting. That's 2 guys who can play the 10/8, be adaptable in that midfield, suck people out of the defensive line, and then either play a ball in, shoot from distance, be driving into that space that it creates, combine really well with the Cody Gakpo, combine really well with the Luis Diaz, combine really well with the Mo Salah, combine well with the other young players, and possibly a Fabinho sitting deep, but then maybe Kone in the long run is taking that role. There are so many different combinations that this midfield can take. That's what Liverpool seem to want. The methodology at Liverpool is changing right now. The way that Liverpool play and the way that Liverpool train, the way that Liverpool conceive of the game as a club is changing. It's not that Liverpool are going out with the old way. We don't need Jurgen Klopp anymore. We don't need any of this. It's that Liverpool are going, we need to modernize. We need to move forward with the times. We need to move forward with the way that we approach the game, because there are lots of people, especially Man City, who are innovating right now. Liverpool only got to that innovation a little bit later in the season. They kind of found their identity, or maybe some of the ideas sort of came together later on, and that kind of thing can take some time. You'd hope now, not that the shape is the thing that Liverpool have settled on, because I think that's always going to be changing next season, but that the methodology, the way the players gel together, all these kind of things is going to be big. Players like Mac Allister are really good for synergy within the team. You saw when Graham Potter moved on from Brighton, I think he said something like, I could have killed him or something like that for moving on. Obviously he was only joking, but what he means by that is we really had something good going here. What could we have done? But as soon as De Zerbi was in there, he was building around players like Mac Allister, he was building around high-profile guys or guys who could potentially profile really well, and they adapted really nicely. What have Liverpool needed this summer, needed this past season? Adaptability in that midfield. People who are leaders alongside a Henderson, alongside other prominent players like Trent and Virgil, and even Mo Salah within the squad. What have they needed? Kind of a replacement for that Mane type, someone who can drive, someone who can be a threat and suck defenders and defensive midfielders out, creating space in behind when teams are deep. All of that is things that Mac Allister and all the other rumoured signings are going to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Liverpool shape up next season. There's some incredibly exciting players to come in this Liverpool kit, and Mac Allister is one of them. The final thing I want to talk about is a lot of people talking about his height, possibly that he's not, you know, the tallest of players. Liverpool have got like quite a lot of prominent height in their squad. Darwin Núñez is there. Cody Gakpo is quite tall. They've got a couple of smaller guys out on the wing. In the centre there, it's not necessarily going to be about winning those headers, though weirdly, Mac Allister has actually won a couple of headers, and not one, but like found the space to have those headers. Losing Bobby Firmino, someone who's very good in the air, and gaining a Mac Allister is good. I think Mac Allister is cute in the same way that, not in exactly the same way as Bobby Firmino is. I think he's magic and there's no really way to replace him, but you can see kind of the space that he takes up, the fact that he drops a little bit deeper, but can also operate as part of that front line, interchangeable roles, smart, all these kind of things. But at the same time, being that left-sided midfield, he's got 2 centimetres, I think, difference between him and Thiago. He's 2 centimetres taller, by the way, than Thiago, who's 176. Thiago's 174. There are things like this where you're like, okay, Liverpool have operated without height absolutely throughout the side before, and it's not always about beating people in aerial duels all the time. They've got that before, they've got that behind him. This is a guy who can get the ball on the pitch, be cute with it, get in positions where he's got the space, and he was mirroring Messi during the World Cup. He was being more adaptable for that midfield. He was a huge part of how adaptable and how brilliant Argentina are. And he's got a winning mentality, which is what the likes of Thiago came with, which is what someone like Mo Salah, Mane, Virgil van Dijk, all the Alisson, huge international players that came into Liverpool. Mac Allister strikes me as that type. On the flip side, obviously there are some downsides to it in that this is his first massive profile club. He's kind of been at other clubs who profile him as a technical player they could sell on, so obviously RB, and then obviously going on to Brighton. This is clearly the pipeline for where big players come from now, or one of the big pipelines. So this is his first big profile club where he's going to have to take quite a big step up in terms of exposure, in terms of all these things. So it's going to be interesting to see what Liverpool do with him, how they cocoon him, how they bring him in, how he's kind of accepted into that midfield, and really moving out the old and in with the new. He's still very young. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that as well. He seems, obviously, he's kind of hard to profile in terms of age because he still doesn't look old or young. So when he's out in the field, no one really goes, oh, he's one of those experienced guys, or oh, he's one of those young guys. He's not a perpetually young guy like Theo Walcott, but he's not a perpetually old guy like, I don't know, insert old guy here. I always thought of Makelele as old, probably because he came into the Premier League quite old, or I always think of Kante as like, you know, late 20s always. Maybe even early 30s, just because the way he carries, the way he reads the game, those kind of things. So I'm interested to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll chat to you in a little while more about where Mac Allister's going, more about where Liverpool are going, and I'll see you in a little bit. Much love. Bye.